Hey everyone. So I'm gonna try something today. I don't know why this never occurred to me, but it occurred to me this morning when I was prepping that um, I'm gonna record my prep time for class when it makes sense to do so, and then share that with you all. So before class, usually for at least a couple hours, I'm getting stuff together and sort of thinking about what we're gonna do and going over things and putting SDKs together and whatever. Because obviously I just have to do that, but I'm going to record it because what's happening in class is we're just discovering issues, right? Like tech issues, connectivity issues, stuff that's coming up between Macs and PCs and just like Android and all kinds of stuff, right? And that's all fine. We're going to get there. It's going to be fine. But as we sort of onboard with the VR tech and everything, we're going to have problems. Um, and that means that sometimes we're not getting through what I wanted to get through for that day, if that makes sense. And also folks are at different speeds, right? So maybe you came in, your PC was working and someone else wasn't, and we have to spend time fixing. Again, it's what we need to do. It's what the class is right now. But I want to make sure that you're getting stuff, right? Like here's a thing to try, here's like a thing to experiment with, whatever. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do today. Is record this thing concept in Unity that we're going to be talking about hopefully today, and if not, here it is, right? So what that is this. I built this as like a just super fast and dirty prototype to show off the concept of XR grab interactables, which we set up really quickly last class, but also this thing called sockets in Unity. What I'm going to do, I'll toss on the headset. I'm going to show you what this looks like. Hopefully you'll be able to see it here. I'll make this maximize on play here. You'll be able to see what I'm doing. You might be able to hear it. I'm not sure if the audio is going to record correctly or not, but I'll find out afterwards. But you'll be able to see what I'm talking about, which is this little scene in front of you here is more or less a carnival game, like a really, really basic game you would play at a fair or something, where you grab these balls in VR and you throw them and you're trying to get them to land on these cubes, right? In a normal world, right, you'd throw it and then the physics would let the ball sort of roll and it would like just keep rolling off, right? What you can do in Unity is set up this thing called an XR socket interactor. And what that's going to do is you throw the ball and if it hits this, it's going to lock it in place. And then there are other sort of benefits to this where you can have something socket, right? It attaches to this object. And then there are all these interactor events, which we have not really spent a lot of time with in class, these interactor events, but they're going to start popping up now, which is when the ball, right, hits this thing, which is a trigger, right? Remember back to our marble thing. It's going to play this. And then when it leaves it, when I grab it and you want to throw it again, it'll play this. And this is a cool thing about the XR interaction toolkit is that all of this is done for you. You don't have to go and encode. You don't have to do anything. It's just right there for you. So I'm going to throw this on, see if you can see it. We'll find out afterwards if this works okay. But again, just capturing what I'm doing before class, usually in the noon hour, to get my head wrapped around what we're going to talk about. All right. Oops, here we go. Okay, so grabbing this ball and I'm throwing it. I missed. Try it again. Oop, I teleported. Come back. And you can cheat and get really close if you want. So there it goes. I'm going to stand up now. And trying to throw out in the second one. I hit the ball. There we go. Got it. This is where you can play with physics. Yeah, nice. Killing it. Okay. All right. Whoa. Teleporting. You turn off teleportation for this probably too, so you can't cheat. No, come back. Just bad at this game. It's really hard. The one in the back. It is the top prize. No. No, come on. You can do it. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna steal them. I did it. All right, so there you go. Right, but the thing, take this off really fast here. It probably sounded really weird if you even heard my voice at all in there because my headphones are the mic, but anyways, the thing that's interesting about this and different than what we were doing is that you saw the balls like a lock, right, when they hit the object. Yeah, it's really good for playing a game if you want to, make something like this. But it's also really great for like placing an object, right? If you were going to do a simulation where you, I don't know, pick up like a medical tool or something, right? And you want the nursing student or someone to, um, grab that thing and place it in the right spot as they're organizing their tray for surgery or something, right? Well, they can only put it in the right spot and they can't accidentally put it like, on the person's face that they're going to operate on or whatever, right? There's lots of, kind of things like that. It could be like for keys too, right? So you can only put the key in the keyhole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and rebuild this for you so you can follow me. Follow along if you want. So I'm going to make a new scene here. Create, actually, I'm going to duplicate this scene is what I'm going to do. The reason is if I was going to make a new scene, right, and just showing you exactly what I would do as I'm prepping. To make a new scene, I would have to go through and put all the origin stuff in again, right? But I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to duplicate by Control D or Command D. I'm going to open up this scene, this sample scene 1, and I'm going to resave this as like fair game, right? Because that's what we're sort of building. It's like this fair game thing. And here we go. And now I'm going to delete everything. I'll just hide it, I guess. It's even easier. Okay, cool. So what we have here is more or less what we did in class. I think we actually had a ball, if I remember correctly. I had that one sphere, right, to be able to throw. So this is more or less what you have built already from class. The difference is here, I have some materials on these that I had done for the other seed, but that's just, I made a ball material to make it red, right? So it looks different. It's always, if you don't use new materials in Unity, especially in VR, you'll see everything's like bright, blindingly white, the default materials. So you want to at least change the colors a little bit. Okay, so anyway, so we have this. And if you were following along in class, right, we made a sphere. I renamed it ball. And the only thing I did to that was put this script on it. By typing add component, and I took XR grab interactable. And this is where I called it the Thanos glove, was correctly corrected, calling it the Infinity Gauntlet. The things that you say when you're teaching, if you guys ever end up teaching, it's just like you're thinking of like 5 steps ahead all the time, trying to make sure stuff makes sense. And then you say stupid things all the time. So thank you for those of you who corrected me. I will turn in my nerd card at the end of the week. Anyways, that's all you got to put on XR grab interactable. This will correctly then Infinity Gauntlet the things to you, right? It's going to create a magnet to your hand when you fire off the right like button press. We didn't talk about this, but just again to show you here in the actual XR origin, which is your player, on your hands. We'll probably do this in class today, but there's a thing called select usage, and that's grip. Right now, it's defaulting to grabbing. You can't really see it on my background, but there's like the grip thing where you squeeze the controller. That's grip, and you can change these to whatever you want. You can change it to trigger, primary button. These things, they obviously are like kind of random. We can look them up. They're in the Unity documentation because they're going to be different for every headset. One of the cool things about this kit is that you could build this for Android and put it on a Quest, but you could also build this for PC and load it on a Vive or on an old Oculus or on a Index or something. It'll work for any headset, which is super cool. Anywho, that's where you get that like squeezing thing, in case you were curious. Okay, so right now, if we jump into VR, we can teleport and we can squeeze and get the ball to come to us. But we want to set up like the little target things, right? So the way we did that, the way I did it, right? And again, this is how I prep. I'm like, try to do it again, right? I'm going to make a cube. I'm going to set the origin or the transform to the origin. And this is our little platform, right? I'm going to scale this down to make it, make it a little target. And that's basically all I did, honestly. Like I did that, make it a little thinner, maybe just make it look right, I guess. Zoom in, look at it. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Cool. So right now, this is just a cube, right? Floating in space. I made a target color just to make them jump out and not be white, but just some kind of color. You don't have to do that, but you can, makes it look nicer in VR. And then what we want to do is make this thing a socket. We want to make this like, if you put things in a socket, right? Put a plug in a socket or something, right? We want to have it, receive something and then attach that thing that it is receiving to itself. And that thing that it's going to receive, right, or catch, right, is the ball. Again, Unity does this for us, which is awesome, by using XR socket interactor. And that's the thing. We add that then to this cube. The other thing we have to do is we have to make this a trigger, right? Because we don't want this thing to actually be a physical object, if that makes sense. We want it to grab something, right? We want it to receive an object. We don't want the ball to like float on the cube, right? Even though it appeared as if it was in the previous thing, I'm going to show you why. We want it to actually trigger, right? When the ball hits the cube here, the little platform, we want it to trigger some sort of event, and that event, right? Just like you were doing with your marbles, where you would have them hit like the ground and it would trigger an event, which is play the audio. We want to have this trigger an event, which is to lock the sphere to it. Okay, so that's why we do that. It doesn't have a collider anymore, but it has a trigger. And right now, I'm going to hit play. Hopefully this will work. This is one of the other things you get to see is if I screwed something up. But right now I'll hit play. Hopefully what'll happen is you throw the ball and it's going to attach to it, but it's going to look really weird is all. And I'll show you why it looks really weird. Okay. So that's what happens, right? And it looks really weird, right? It's like inside the cube. And we don't want that, right? And look, I guess you could, but you probably don't. You want it to like sit on top of it, right? If you're playing like a carnival game, or if you throw it and it, like, you did it, right? Kind of thing. You hit the platform. The way you do that is there's this thing that says attach transform. And this will come up a few times in the Unity XR kit because you'll see it on a bunch of different scripts. But what we need to do, if you hover over it, like it's going to give you a bit of help. So it's the transform that is used as the attach point for the interactables. Okay, we'll create an empty game object if none. So what it's saying is right now it says none transform. And then this is like super confusing because like, why does it say transform? It's going to default to saying it's going to use this. It uses its own object as the transform, right? So it's saying none. If you don't tell me, we're going to create an empty game object attached to this object and attach the thing to it. And it's going to get this position, which means you're going to throw the ball and it's going to appear as if this thing is just like inside it, right? Like this. It's going to look like that because it's just like putting it in the cube, right? But we don't want that, right? We want to actually put it not in the cube, right? We want to put it above the cube. So it's asking, where is that thing, right? And we need to make an object. We need to show it the attach transform. Easiest way to do that, and you'll do this probably for other things if you use the kit and want to like build out a special thing, is we make a child. So right click, make a 3D object cube, and we're going to get a cube right there, which is like when you child something like that, right click and child, it'll basically duplicate the object, but create a child parent relationship. And this is the thing we want to use. So instead of saying we want to attach it to here, we want to attach it to like here, right? But we don't actually want this to be visible, right? And we don't actually want it to have a box slider, right? We're really all we need is this. We need the transform, right? So we can even rename this and say, this is the attach point, or that is the lock point or the socket point, or like that's where it's like attaching, right? And this is actually not a cube, this is a target, right? And then over here where it says attach transform, like where am I attaching this? We say, well, at the attach point, okay? And that now should work. Let me double check again. There you go. Right. And now it's locking it to that position. Saying it again in case you couldn't hear me with my headset on. It's locking the ball right to this position as opposed to this position, which is super cool, right? Because you can. That's how you would make like a key, like a key event, right? You don't want the key to lock anywhere to like the keyhole, like object. You want it to lock specifically the key inside the keyhole object, right? So you'd have like your keyhole or something, right? I'm drawing it out here. And then you'd have like the little spot in the middle, but you actually want the key to go all the way into that. And that's where you would make an object and say, that's the attach point. Does that make sense? And then the user would like grab a key and you put it over, and if they let go in the right spot, it'll lock. And then, and this is where it gets really cool, right? You use these things. These are the interactor events. Again, what's so helpful about the kits, and this one is the easiest one, the XR one, is that they have these things here. The hover I have to double check this. We'll play with this probably in class, but the hover are when you are going, you have like the key over the keyhole, or if you were to walk over with this ball and put it over the socket, but not let go, you would be firing off whatever is here. And then this one is if it actually, you threw it or you let go, like you put the key in and let go of the controller, what do you want it to have do? And this is select. And these words are weird. Like it's like, what does select mean? What is, I don't know. It's like some Unity logic, right? You just have to know what they like, be able to translate what the designer is trying to do. Again, we haven't really talked about this. We're gonna, interactors are, I was waiting to do it with VR because I think it's a really easy way to understand them. But if you are in any way familiar with Unity in the past, you probably did these in like UI for like clicking buttons, because it's very similar. It's like, what happens when I push the button in the game? What happens when I want to click on a menu and click the back button? What you're actually doing in Unity is you have all these different events. And in that sense, it's called like an on-click event, and that's the actual Unity method that's being called. Here, Unity's made all these other ones for us, right? So select entered, right, is when I throw the ball in this case and it hits this thing, what's going to happen, right? And it can be anything. That's the cool thing, right? What I had set up in the other one was I wanted it to play a sound. And I think that's just an easy one to see, right? Because it's like, ta-da, you did it, you won, right? And you could also do like a particle effect we haven't talked about yet, or you could play a movie, or you could have the game shut off, or you could like change all the colors. You could like all different kinds of stuff, right? You could do tons of stuff. Let's try a sound, right? And what we want to do is I'm going to create an audio source here because I want the sound to play from this spot, right? It's like ta-da, like some little sound effect plays from the target. So on the target, I'm going to create an empty game object, right? And I'm going to name this audio source or something like, or how about like success sound, like you hit it, right? And I'm going to add an audio source to it. And this is, yeah, we did this with your marble stuff, right? You add the audio source. Right now, this is way too big, and it's also two-dimensional, and it's going to play as soon as the game starts. So we want to make sure that we untick play on awake. We want to take spatial blend and turn it all the way to 3D, which means now it's going to play emanating from this spot, which is the idea of diegetic audio, right? It's playing from space as opposed to non-diegetic, which is 2D, which means if you left it like this, what would happen is it would just play in your headphones like stereo. If you do it like this, it's going to play it from the target spot. The one thing that we need to change still is that the max distance is 500, which is just insanely huge. It's 1,500 feet, basically. And really, we want it to be like 6 or something, 6 meters, which is like 18 feet, which, yeah, that's probably still pretty big. Maybe even a little smaller. Let's make it, I don't know. If we turn on our gizmos and you can see it right there, you can see the roll off, it's the blue. How far away do you want to be able to hear the audio, right, is the question. So like maybe there or something like that. If you imagine yourself standing like at a carnival booth, right? How far away could you hear like the ding from the thing that you hit? 5, 7 feet, maybe, I don't know, right? This is 9, almost 10 feet. We can go with that. The one thing you want to change, remember, is change this to linear and then do the curve like that, slide the thing over. Otherwise, if you don't, what happens is this is not all the way done at 0. So it would never fully attenuate. It would never get to 0. And if, I don't know, say somehow like there was another person playing with you and they were doing this carnival game over here and you were way over here, you would hear their audio no matter how far away you were, because it would always be playing, right? You want it to roll off to 0 at some point. So I'm gonna turn that like this. Occasionally you're gonna get stuff like this, these GUI errors, just ignore them. They're like usually not your fault. And I'll change this actually, oops. Linear like that again, do that. It was getting weird looking. I was just putting keys in, I didn't need to. Anywho, that's all you need to do, right? And then we just need to associate an audio sound, right? Right now, it's not playing anything. I went and grabbed this kit called Casual Game Sounds from the the asset store. These are kind of, that's kind of neat, I guess. It's kind of cool. That's kind of neat. Now let's just go with that. It's fairly not that annoying, the water kind of sound. So now, right, let's talk through the logic. Right now we have the target, an interactor detaching above it, and we want to tell it now what happens when something hits it. Well, we want our sound to do something. Oops, we want our success sound to do something. And what do we want that thing to do, right? We want it to, well, we want to use the audio source and we want to play it. And this is all the stuff you can do in here. Some of these are really useful, like super useful. Like maybe you want to turn something off, like you can bool and switch it off or something, or mute something, or let's see, pause the music. You could change the volume to a different volume level, right? Let's just have it play. Okay. And that should now, when you go in and throw it, it'll play that sound. Say also, and this is what I like to do when I'm prepping, I'm like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if like this changed color, right? What would that look like, right? So when you throw it and it lands, it like switches the color of the sphere. Well, how do you do that? It's the same logic, right? So think about this, right? We want to have another thing happen, and we want to have something happen to the sphere, the ball. So I'm going to put the ball here. And if you go and then look, there's all these different things here. And let's look at the ball really fast. If we want to change the material, right, we need to use the mesh renderer, right? Because this is the component and the material is part of the component. So let's see if that's an option. We go in here, ball, there's mesh renderer, right? And then you look through here, it's all this like crazy stuff, right? You know, most of it you can ignore at this point, but there's one that says material. And it says none material. It's asking you like, okay, well, you can change the material, right? What do you want it to be? Let's turn it to green. Let's make a new material. Success, yeah, whatever, success. Let's call it success. Make it green. And then we want to grab the target. And I want to do that. It's going to then, on the ball, when the ball hits this thing, it's going to put this material. Okay. And you could also do this where it like destroys the ball, right? Or you can do all kinds of stuff, right? You could put it when it hits this thing, it increments a score, right? It'd be another thing, like you keep track of scoring and whatever. If you get all 4 of them, right, it says you win. Like that would be tracking in all these different within these components, right? So you'd have like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Different little things to throw onto, and it's always checking like what's the score, right? When it hit, and if the score is X, it says, ta-da, you won the prize, right? It's all the same kind of logic. So I'm gonna check this, see if that works, and then that's probably where we'll stop. And again, we'll talk about these in class maybe, but again, just wanted to capture this sort of improvisatory thing that I'm doing before class, where I'm just exploring a concept to get it fresh in my mind from learning it before. But then just also as kind of a triage thing, right? If we don't get to this here, like go do it, check it out, ask me questions, right? To make sure that you know, everyone is getting what they need out of the class. And if the class time one-on-one is like me sitting and working with the computer and trying to get it to work, great. But that necessarily obviously means like we're not like talking about something else, right? So anyway, let's see if this works, and then I'll see you in class. Ta-da! We did it. Guys, we did it. We created fire. Yeah, that's it. Again, this looks really simple. I know a couple folks were saying like, oh, that's it. Like last class when we got like teleport set up and everything. It's like, yeah, but that's basically all you need to make a lot. Like this is a lot of possibility, right? Within the functionality of the kit. And that's what, again, we'll spend time playing with, right? Trying to make things. So that'll be class today. We're going to try to do that, try to make sure everyone's computers are set. And then after break, you'll see, I'm going to throw an assignment up for break, but just to extend what we were doing on Monday, sort of play with those scenes. But then after break, we're going to do this kind of stuff. I want you to kind of make some physical based experiences to get you familiar with Unity and VR and just the build process before we open it up and say, okay, what do you guys want to do, right? Do you want to make a movie theater? Like, do you want to like do whatever, right? So that's the plan. Okay, cool. Hopefully this worked. Otherwise, I've been talking to myself for like half an hour. If it didn't, that's not good. Hopefully it worked. And if it's useful for you, awesome. Cool. See ya.